Jennifer Griffin. I'm the Senior Services Coordinator here at the Schaumburg Library. I'm happy to see so many familiar faces today. Thank you for making the trek out here for this awesome presentation. Today's presentation is Love Smart, Live Well, and Stay Safe. We have presenters presenting on two different pieces of this, the health side of it, and also the technology side of it. We're keeping yourself safe online when it comes to romance scams. So thank you so much. I'm going to introduce our panelists really quickly here, but I just want you to know that if you need the restroom, it is just out this door. It is to your left, the ladies' room, and then just go a little further, and there is the men's room there. If you have any questions, we're asking that you wait to hold them to the end. We do have little cards that you can write your question on, that you can give to one of us, or you could ask it yourself at the end. If you do not feel comfortable asking the question during the presentation, the presenter's information is on the card, and you can contact them on your own time if you would like to. So I'm so pleased to introduce our panelists today. Today we have Dr. Melissa Drake and Dr. Kristen McGuire from Dr. Daughters. Thank you so much for coming. We have Detective Michael Recupito. Am I saying that right? Yeah, from the Schaumburg Police Department. And then we also have Meredith Everhart, our social worker, also from the Schaumburg Police Department. So thank you all for coming, and we will get started. I'm sorry? Oh, the council. Oh, yeah, we're gonna. Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. So this is presented by our Support Our Seniors Council here in Schaumburg. We're going to introduce everybody at the end of the presentation, right before we do all those cool raffle prizes. Okay, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Here we go. You're good.
Okay, well, hopefully you guys can hear us pretty well. Thank you so much for coming. We're excited to be here. I'm Dr. Kristen McGuire, and I have Dr. Melissa Drake here with me. We're from Dr. Daughters, and we are physicians. We're emergency medicine physicians, and we work in the ER locally, but we also have started a company in the last couple of years called Dr. Daughters, and it's kind of a funny name, but what that means is we are personal physician consultants, like we were doctors in your family. So if any of you here have a doctor in your family, there may have been times where you felt like you could just call or ask a question kind of candidly. You don't have to call your own doctor. So we sort of do that for everybody else. And so there's more things that we offer to that realm, but that's kind of how we got involved with this. And we're excited to be here and ready to get started. Okay. Yes. So today I think this is a fun topic. Do you want to start?
Sure, yes. Nice to meet you. Oh, you want us to come over here? No, yeah.
We weren't sure where you'd like us to stand.
Where would you like us?
Is this good?
That's good over here. Awesome,
Okay.
sounds good. And absolutely, raise your hand. Let us know if you have any questions.
At the end.
This is or at the end.
That's what she said.
Yes. So then we can talk, but senior sexuality, this is a fun topic. It's interesting, a lot of our clients, it is funny, the spouse talks about it. So I have one client that we went through all of his medical problems. He has heart problems. He's a healthy guy, like out and about. I think right now they're in Banff, Canada, hiking. But he left the room and his wife was pretty much like, let's talk about sex. And so, which by the way, you should know as physicians, we are really, really comfortable talking about. Nothing ever surprises us. So especially as ER doctors.
Oh, yes. We've heard it all, seen it all.
Yes. I was telling my kids, I have 4 teenagers, and I said, there's nothing in the world you would say that would surprise me because we have seen different or worse. So there's nothing alarming or that we haven't learned about, read about, or seen. So let's get into it.
Yes, and I'm so sorry.
Yes, yes. It was funny. God rest her soul, when my grandma passed, she was all Irish from the South Side. And she said, when we were burying my grandpa, a big Swede, she said to him, she's like, we were at the funeral luncheon much like a Finnegan's Wake, and she was drinking a beer at 88 and said, I am going to really miss the sex. And we were like, Grandma, like what? Like, oh my God. She goes, I'm just saying. So
Yeah.
here we are.
But that is so true, because even though we change, we age, we evolve physiologically, sexuality does not have an expiration date. And people feel like maybe it should, or they're afraid to ask why it doesn't. But so we're trying to overcome these stereotypes and obstacles here today. Let's not be afraid to talk about it. So sexuality, not to get into all the definitions, but it's how we experience and express ourselves sexually, right? It involves feelings, desires, actions, physical touch, stimulation. Intimacy is a feeling.
I feel like we should add that sound effect to the
Intimacy is a feeling of closeness and connectedness in a relationship. So it doesn't have to involve the physical component. It often does, but they are two separate things. They're important together, and they're also important individually. So we have challenges when we age, right? Life transitions occur. When we're younger and our kids are small, we are so preoccupied, we don't sometimes have time to even think about sex or intimacy. And when you do, you are tired and it's the last thing on your mind. As you get older, and I shouldn't say it's the last thing on your mind, you just really don't have the bandwidth anymore sometimes. But as we get older, things change. The needs change, the time changes, conversations change. Do you want to take the next one, or you want to keep going?
Sure, yeah. And to that point, you think about how you looked at it at 16, then you looked at it at 25, then you look at it at 35, you look at it at 50. It's going to look different to me at 80.
80.
It's going to look different with everything that's going on in your life, too, at those points and in your body and how you feel and who you're with and who you're not with, and all those things come into play.
Yeah.
Your physical and emotional health, I think it's important to be connected, but that is also going to change in how we feel and who we're with. As we get older, there are less distractions or worries, or the worries are different.
Yeah.
I think there may be less distractions, but the worries are definitely different, and sometimes more valid. What I worried about at 25, I think is going to feel very trivial by what I'm worried about at 80. And even at, I think about what I worried about at 18, and now what I worried about at 50. It's night and day.
I love this one. It says you're less worried about expressing your needs. So maybe when you're 25, you don't really want to express to your spouse or your significant other, your intimate other, what you desire and what you want. But later in life, you're like, forget it. I'm just going to let you know what I want. And I think that's really interesting there. That's one of those points.
And I think, too, where you're more in touch with who you are and what your needs are.
And you're comfortable.
We're more wise as we get older.
Right.
You guys are certainly more wise than we are. And as I sit there at 80, I will let the 50-year-olds know that. But I think you're way more in tune with who you are. The deal is, how do we get there and how do we make sure we're fulfilling those needs?
So other expected changes are not just physical and emotional, but they can be circumstantial, right? So we can have loss of a spouse. You're not going to lose the desire as a person, as a sexual being, but maybe you're not sure how to move on from that. Maybe you feel like you're betraying your spouse and you feel guilty. Divorce. You don't have to lose a spouse to death, but divorce. There's still desires, but you haven't dated in years. Where do I start? Especially in today's world, where do I even start?
Yeah,
right?
And what's safe? And I mean, we didn't grow up in the dating online, but it really is. And you guys certainly didn't. That seems super foreign. And how do you trust it and whatnot?
And we should acknowledge, too, that physically we change, right? Our skin changes, muscle tone, all those other things change. And it makes us feel different in our bodies. In our minds, we're the same people. As we age, you can just tell that you're not the same physical person. And that might change how you feel as far as desirability, attractiveness, and how you want to connect with somebody else. So that's something that if you're feeling, it's expected, it's normal, and it's okay. In women, the vagina, right? It shortens, it narrows, it changes anatomically. Loss of estrogen, vaginal walls get thinner and stiffer. Sexual intercourse can become painful. Less lubrication, takes longer to get there. That sounds like a lot of work that sounds like it can be painful, and it might really be a barrier that we really can overcome, and it should be something we're not afraid to talk about and be honest with ourselves about it and also with our spouse.
This is a quick anecdote. I'll never forget an ENT. I had a 80-year-old woman in the ER, and her nose kept bleeding, it was dry, and the ENT came, I think it was Garrity or whatever, said to me, he goes, think of the nose like the vagina.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, and and I thought, well, yeah, there are 2 holes. And so he said, he goes, that tissue, just much like our noses get drier, and the skin is thinner, and there we may bleed, he goes, needs lubrication too. And I thought that frequently we don't think about tissue being the same as other areas, but they kind of are and similar. So if you think about, we have to lubricate our noses, we have to do that, the vagina too is a hole, similar.
I never would have thought that an ENT doctor
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
Menopause, right? This is something that Dr. Drake and I are probably getting closer to,
Yes.
so we can empathize. But menopause, the symptoms can be intolerable, right? Hot flashes, mood changes, you're not sleeping, anxiety. It can go on for years. And I think that quite often, even today, but definitely generations ago, it was just something we were supposed to accept. We're going through the change, put up with it. My mom did it, my grandma did it. We just said, it doesn't have to be that way. One of the biggest things though is libido can be primarily or secondarily affected by these symptoms, and then that can change your sex life, and that's why we're here. Let's see, click, click, click. How about in men?
Men. So men go through their own changes. And I think sometimes women are really pretty open about talking about it. It's in our personalities, it's in our genetics, that we're talkers. I don't often hear men complaining about these things, or maybe they complain a little bit to their spouse, and maybe to their doctor, maybe not to their doctor. But these are natural, normal things that happen. This, much like diabetes, much like your heart, it is an organ. And so, and that is how we as physicians view it. It's no different to us than your liver, than your bladder, than every other organ in your body. Erectile dysfunction. Was it George Bush or somebody really got McCain? One of the politicians really did a big push on this, which was great. It's the inability to have or keep an erection. It happens. This is a fact of life. Much like our vaginas get drier, this happens to men. Erection may not be as firm, it may not be as sensitive. It's not a problem if it happens every now and then, but it can become a normal expectation. And it can become where it's happening very frequently. And with that comes an emotional component, because then we feel like our masculinity is threatened. We're not who we used to be. We're not this big man. We're not who we can't please our spouse.
That's the big one, I think, people.
And it is amazing how much your spouse will collaborate with you on that. I think it'd be interesting if a lot of people talked about that, whether you're dating, whether it's your significant other, whatever that person is to you. If you talked about it, you might really find that they're like, oh, let me tell you, I have been struggling, and both joining together, owning those things.
The one thing I do want to mention about erectile dysfunction, it is a normal change in life. However, the penis, very vascular organ. If you do have problems with erectile dysfunction more than typical or maybe earlier than you would otherwise expect, it can be a sign of vascular disease. So it is very important to talk to your doctor about it though too, to make sure that it's not your first warning that you have poor circulation. Because if we don't circulate to our kidneys, to our, to our brain, to our feet, things become a problem. So it is important to recognize that it's normal, but that we want to make sure we're not missing other big things there. Sorry guys. My clicker's not clicking. There it is. All right. Oopsie. Okay, we talked about this. All right. Let's talk about very briefly, so we can get more of the stuff that you guys really probably have questions about.
This is not isolated to just seniors.
No.
This is everybody.
Yes.
This is college kids.
Yes.
This is everybody.
Yes. So beyond the normal things, right? Beyond the aging, beyond the physiological changes, the hormonal changes, there are other things that can actually contribute to sexual dysfunction. Alcohol is one of them, right? In men and women, but we're talking, oh no, it is saying women there, sorry about that. So erections in men and orgasm in women.
I always think this is such an interesting thing that God did to our bodies, that alcohol decreases your inhibitions. And now you're like, maybe this is what we want to do, and decreases your inhibitions. And then when you go to play on those inhibitions, you can't. And so I think it's interesting. It's a dichotomy of it gives you all this freedom,
right.
and then you fall asleep. So maybe it's by design, so we don't make bad choices. I don't know. Maybe it's by design.
So this sounds like a, well, no kidding, duh kind of thing to say, but what about just chronic pain and mobility and joint pain? And not that you're doing acrobatics or hanging from the ceiling or anything, but certain positions are very uncomfortable, and maybe not what's comfortable for one person is not comfortable for their spouse, and so collaboratively that poses a problem. Dementia, we actually see this in the ER a lot in that, so it can lead to an increased interest in sex and physical closeness, but there might be a problem with judgment on that. So sometimes we see couples who are in an assisted living facility together, but maybe one is more advanced in perhaps dementia than the other, and they come to the ER because, for example, I'm not trying to be sexist, say the husband is wandering into somebody else's room because he still has desires, he still loves his wife, but he forgets who his wife is sometimes. And so he walks into a gal's room and she doesn't want that in advance, and now they think that he's crazy and he's gotta go to the ER, and he doesn't have to go to the ER, but we see it all the time. So again, it doesn't change your desires and your the need for human closeness and contact, but maybe the judgment's a little off. I just said this.
Yeah, it is, the inhibition is down.
Yeah,
gone.
the judgment.
Yeah, just the judgment
They're not
on those
necessarily
things.
harmful people. They just, they forget that Patty in room 3 is not their wife Wendy in their own room. I don't know.
Maybe Patty's like reminiscent of what
Hey.
Patty was at prom.
Depression.
Oh, depression. So this, is not isolated to being a senior. Lack of interest in activities you used to enjoy. Sometimes it's hard when you don't feel good about your life to then feel good about this area or even have the desire to do it. There's also medications sometimes that we take for depression that can also decrease our libidos too. Again, and we'll keep flagging this throughout. That's another thing. If you're finding you're on these medications, and we may refer to it later, but to talk to your doctor about that.
Yeah.
If you're finding like, Seroquel, whatever you're on, my Zoloft, whatever, I feel better on it, but I'm losing interest in a lot of things, talk to your doctors.
Yeah.
We want you to mention it. There's nothing off limits.
Right.
And that is important. And it should not be dismissed.
And we see a lot of people, and one of the reasons they are not taking their medications is because of loss of libido. And instead of talking to their doctors about alternatives or other maybe lowering your dose or something else, they just stop it, and then it doesn't help anybody, right?
So just talk to them and see if there's something. There's so many options now. There's not only one way, and that's it. So talk.
Diabetes. Diabetes is one of those diseases I feel like a lot of us don't feel that we have it. I should say when we have it, we can't really tell or feel it, but it wreaks havoc on your organs and your blood vessels. So diabetes can lead to vascular problems and erectile dysfunction in men, yeast infections in women, things like that. Diabetes is just an awful disease. Heart disease. We already talked about this a little bit, about blood flow and circulation. I don't think we need to really belabor that. Now, there's also a fear that people have if they are on nitrates or nitroglycerin for heart disease, that they can't ask about using the other drugs for erectile dysfunction. Other people worry that, oh my gosh, if I have sex, can I have a heart attack?
Oh, what a way to go.
What a way to go.
Good point.
So these are valid concerns, but my point is they shouldn't just stop you in your tracks from living the life you want. Talk to your doctor about it and see, and they'll give you the go-ahead. What about incontinence? Who doesn't, this is probably one of the most frequent and common things that come with aging. Aging, I've had children.
Yeah.
But again, that's undesirable, right? When during intercourse you could leak urine, you worry about that. And then medications. All of these things can alter your ability to have the sex life you want. How about stroke, right?
Right. Stroke can definitely affect your ability to have sex. There are it is not only vascular. We know it feels good, so we know there's nerves there. So paralysis can make that difficult, and it can be really hard to control, especially in men. Sometimes you're getting an erection, you don't even realize it.
That's true.
And it won't go away, or you can't get one at all. Again,
Right.
there are treatments for this. There are ways. It is amazing what medicine has done, and the avenues that are out there to you if we find them safely.
And pelvic floor physical therapy for women, and there's physical therapy also for men to help with this, and it's amazing what they can do. It's not
Amazing.
all a
And your
pill.
insurance should cover it.
Yeah.
So pelvic floor therapy is fantastic. Surgeries, obviously, and we could put on their orthopedic surgeries,
Yeah.
multiple different surgeries, can definitely affect it as well. If your prostate's out, you have a hysterectomy, all those things affect your sexual activity.
So one of the things we said in an earlier slide was the things you worried about at 16, 21, you don't necessarily have to worry about now, correct? Pregnancy, is my mom going to find out?
Is my mom going to find out?
What about STDs? Well, they call them STIs now, sexually transmitted infections, but sexually transmitted diseases. Do we still have to worry about those? 100%. You absolutely have to worry about those. So age does not protect you, experience does not protect you, the cute face on your partner doesn't protect you. The same safeguards apply as they did when you were younger. So people ask about that actually. And you'll see it on some of the pharmaceutical commercials that Viagra does not protect you against sexually transmitted diseases. And I guess it needs to be said.
I think, wasn't it, there was something that came out that the villages down in Florida, that they had, it was an insane amount of
Yes.
sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
Again, if you have symptoms of one, you have discharge, you have pain, any of those things, we have treatments for that too. They happen. We treat it all the time.
And also safe sex practices, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's
But if you get one,
Yeah.
life happens.
Right.
Talk to your doctor. Don't suffer with it. Don't be embarrassed. Again, like I said, nothing floors us. Nothing is going to surprise your family doctor. Make a phone call. Make a phone call and say, I have this, I have this, I have this. They'll test for it. We can actually test now in your urine.
Oh yeah, it's
And
easier.
it's easy. It's not a swab going up there and all this stuff, although
Yeah.
it can be. But we can easily test for it and treat you.
Yeah.
And you not have to suffer, and don't be embarrassed. It's a fact of life.
So what can you do? So there's lots of things you can do. We keep hitting on the point of talking to your doctor. But part of the reason we exist as a physician consultant company is we know how it can be hard to get into your doctor. We know how maybe you're afraid to say things. We know how you maybe have 3 minutes to talk. It seems like you have 3 minutes in the room, but you waited a month for the appointment. So what would you resort to doing sometimes? What do we think that some people find it very easy to do nowadays?
Google it.
Google your symptoms, Google your concerns, but also
Ask a friend. I like asking a friend.
I like asking a friend too. What about finding these companies online that you can just call and talk to somebody and they send you some medications in the mail? Smart,
Yes.
very smart.
Don't do it.
So it's very easy nowadays to go online, and you'll see commercials for this, and talk to a healthcare professional about your erectile
A
dysfunction.
professional.
It's a looser term, because I don't want to at all speak badly about any medical professionals, but it's really important to see a board-certified physician in person about the concerns we've already talked about, because there are risks to these medications. They are seeing you for the first time only. They may not be entirely qualified. They will never see you again. And the conversation's over and you get your medications and you maybe not understanding what you're getting. They're not always as regulated as you think, and they have side effects. So we really want to hammer home that going on, have you guys heard of hims and hers? Good intentions, I think they're a little, predatory is a strong word, but I think they sort of are taking advantage of the fact of all the things I just mentioned, and they're trying to make it easy for people. You can get into trouble, so.
I think that thing too about seeing your doctor in person. Also, and it could be somebody you have an established relationship, maybe sending them an email or talking to their nurse, but is that they can do a physical exam. And maybe the drug that the person on the phone or telemedicine is saying that's never met you,
Is not examining you, by the
is not
way.
examining you, is not taking your blood pressure, does not know that you take nitroglycerin, does not know that all these things, because we forget. I mean, I do too, forget what medicines when we're zoned in on one symptom or one problem. And then they prescribe this, you spend money on it, because it's not free. And then they send you these medicines that you spent your hard-earned money on that are going to not work. Maybe they're not even the medicine, or they're like Viagra, or they're like these things, but it's not truly the medication. And then they counteract with your medications. Or what if that medicine isn't even for the real problem? What if it's a way easier medicine?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's as simple as going to therapy for your pelvic floor, and you don't even need anything.
Or maybe you're tired because that's also a part of life. Maybe you're tired because your blood sugar's out of control. Maybe you're tired because you've got some depression. Maybe it's not all low T. You guys heard about this low T, everybody's low testosterone. I think it's because when we don't feel good, we want to find an answer as to why we don't feel good. That's natural. That's human nature. That's understandable. And if you go to your doctor and they maybe can't give you an answer, well, now you don't feel validated. But the person on the commercial tells you it's all a testosterone problem. And you can get testosterone in 20 minutes now if you wanted to go online to find it. And it's not without risks, that hormone. So we can talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing, there's a big thing push right now for all these hormones. Just go and replace it, go replace it, go replace it. The problem is all those hormones that are saying that they're a one answer and that there's no downside. There's not one medication that doesn't have a downside. If someone is telling you that a medication that you take does not have a downside, they are lying. Aspirin has a downside. Ibuprofen has a downside. Everything has a little bit of a downside. It's kind of why they work, because they change our body chemistry just a little bit. But the testosterone push has been huge for both men and women. And it is causing, in men, it is causing your breasts to grow. They're growing breasts. It's causing, it causes your testicles to shrink. It's because, we won't get into the weeds, testosterone then turns into estrogen if you have too much. So
Yeah.
it's a weird thing. Women are then now looking like men. Their face are hardening.
Some of your anatomy down south can change and be irreversed. That cannot be reversed. That's the wrong word there. These aren't benign things. And it's not to say there's not a role somewhere with these medications. The point is, go to the right person. Now, with that, not every internal medicine physician is up to speed on new options for treatment. Not every OB/GYN is also up to speed. So years ago, in fact, when we were in med school, hormone replacement therapy was like a no. That causes cancer, that increases your
big fear.
endometrial cancer risk, that increases your breast cancer risk. And there are some doctors still who are like, I will never give that to my patients. I don't want to harm them. That's what we do no harm. They can induce heart attacks and things like that. Well, it turns out after time has gone on, there's been research, and those things can be true, but there are certain people that are eligible for these treatments. So if you are less than 10 years away from your last period or no menopause, and you don't have increased risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease otherwise, you might be eligible for hormone replacement therapy from your doctor. And then you will start to feel better. You will stop having hot flashes, less vaginal dryness, less vaginal atrophy. Why should you have to live with these things if there is a treatment? The point is, find the right person to see if you're a candidate for the treatment.
If you are not being heard by your doctors, some are good, are not great, and some are fantastic. Change. You can shop and talk to your friends. Find a doc that you like that's listening to you, and keep hunting. We realize doctors are under constraints where you get in there and you get 10 minutes. So our tips, that's another tip, but go in organized and have your questions written down for what you want to ask so you don't get sidelined. We all do. You go in and you're going in there to talk about your libido, and then all of a sudden you've got high blood pressure. Well, now the libido falls off because your blood pressure is 200, probably because you have to talk about your libido. So it is, so that is okay. if you have that list of questions, and I've even had clients that were like, we didn't get to all the questions, so they handed them to the doctor. And the doctor's like, thank you. This happened with Marcus, with one of my clients. He didn't get to them all, so later that night, the doctor went through every one of the questions and answered them and sent them an email back.
Right.
And he's like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about your weight loss. Because all we got stalled on was your high sugar. And now we're done. And so then he went back and he answered every question. And then they emailed back and forth. So it is, yeah, we want the questions. You are not wasting our time. We are there for you. We don't have jobs without you. The whole job, we would be a radiologist if we did not see patients. But we are there to hear your questions. And if we don't know what's going on with you, there's no way we don't know. We'll just assume that's fine. So we are more of a, if you don't tell me, you don't have decreased libido, I'm gonna assume your libido's just fine.
And there are specialists that actually
Yes.
focus just on this, and they're reputable. It's not just your run-of-the-mill OB-GYN all the time, or your run-of-the-mill urologist or internal medicine doctor. So we can also help you. That's part of what we do too, is to try to help understand what your issues are, what your questions are, how we can find these people for you, and then help you come up with a list of questions so you can go in armed and have those things ready to go and get the answers that you're looking for. So, but I think that might be it. Yeah.
And that's it. Please know if you ever interested in Dr. Daughters, you can give us a call. It's free. Yes.
I have a question about vaginal estrogen cream. I had been reading that it is helping prevent chronic UTIs, chronic urinary tract infections.
That's interesting.
So I was curious if you had any.
Do you have information on that?
Yes.
Okay,
it
good.
does.
So, sorry, just 1 second. Would you mind either repeating her question or
great
just so
idea.
we can get this on the recording?
Does vaginal estrogen decrease or help decrease urinary tract infections? It does. The reason is because vaginal dryness is a risk factor for UTIs. So the dry tissue, it's friable, even can crack. I mean, I hate to say it can. And if that tissue, number one, it creates a little bit of a barrier, the cream, but it also makes that tissue significantly healthier. So yes, it definitely does. That's a big deal
That's a
right
great
now.
question.
Being that I'm perimenopause myself, estrogen, hormones have become my own unique interest in dives in. Absolutely great question and great point. Again, you can get it over the counter, talk to your doctor about it, but that is it's not systemic, but it can really improve your quality of life. Absolutely, absolutely.
In many ways.
Don't put although I felt like he was kind of going there with that.
Well, it's funny because sometimes, like hockey players, when they get a bloody nose, they put a tampon in their nose, and that's what I thought about when you had said like the nose is like the vagina. So many analogies there.
Yes.
Do we want questions now or later at the end?
Let's go ahead and do questions at the end.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Get out of your way.
I was going to say, we just need to turn your mic.
Okay. Is there a way to, I can move this. Can you put this in presenter mode so you can see the upcoming slide? Is that possible?
Presenter mode.
Yeah, do you know how to do that?
That's why I was asking about the notes.
Yeah. Give me just a second. Maybe it's, there's the presenter mode. Okay. All right, well, we'll just, here it is.
Yeah, I'm really not sure.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just make do. All right, I'll just have my notes nearby. Okay.
The mic too.
Yeah, do I need it?
Yeah. And then do you have this mic turned on?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
Do I need this one?
For amplification, yeah.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Take a look at this picture with me, please. Let's bring back some memories, maybe. So how do we meet people when we were younger?
High school.
High school? friends. How have we met, sorry, well, how did we meet people when we were younger? Did we meet them in person?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We met them in person. Maybe we met them at, maybe we met them in a church. But oftentimes we knew them, didn't we? We knew something about them. We knew their families. They were trusted members of the community. The common denominator is we trusted these people. We trusted them to be real people, right? Right. But today that's changed, hasn't it?
Yes.
Today we meet people online, like these two beautiful people. These are AI-generated people, by the way. We look at their profiles. We read their stories. We comb through every single photograph. We try to ingest everything we can about them, right? But sadly, sometimes they're not real. A lot of times they're not real. This online environment is very difficult to sift out the real from the fake, right? But love hasn't changed, has it? We still want love and we still seek love, right? But how we meet people has. These people go online to create false personas, to create false identities. They're the pretenders. And sometimes they're the real people behind the keyboard. And sadly, when our hearts are play, we make decisions with our hearts, right? And we ignore what's before us. We don't do our due diligence to figure out who these people are, right? We only see what they want us to see. So thank you for having me today. My name is Michael Recupero. I'm a detective here at the Schaumburg Police. I investigate financial crimes and I investigate romance scams. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Can someone tell me what a romance scam is?
I'm sorry, what?
Can someone tell me what a romance scam is? In the back.
Somebody that you meet online and they pretty much swindle you for everything.
Very good. It starts online, right? We're gonna have our conversation today about the internet activity, right? It's a false pretense. It's pretend love. They tell you their goal is to love you and to marry you and we're going to live happily ever after, but they have a hidden goal. Does anybody know what that hidden goal is?
Money.
You guys are awesome. That's right, it's money. They want your money. So why are we talking about this today? I'm not going to spend all day boring you with crime stats, but it's worth taking a quick look at. So these are national numbers, okay? These are the total, we went back and looked, these are numbers from the FBI, these are numbers dated back to 2020, to current. And what we see across the nation is, we're talking about online scams. 3.5 million people have been affected, $58 billion in loss. But here's the numbers I want you to look at, the 50 plus. I'm one of those. And there's more than 1 million people across the United States, $28 billion, $3 billion of that is attributed to romance scams. It's in somebody's backyard though, right? It's not our problem here, right? Right? It is. These are Schaumburg numbers. These are numbers directly from the FBI. This is data that's been reported by crime victims to the FBI. These are real numbers. These are not inflated. And I want you to take a look at some of this stuff. Since 2020, there's been nearly 1,000 online crime victims, like, of all types of crimes, not just romance scams. $22 million in loss total. But here's where the numbers get really, really dicey. A third of those victims are 50 plus, and half of that loss is attributed to those people 50 or over. Half of the loss, $11 million. And $1.5 million is attributed to romance scams. So the takeaway here is it is real. It's happening to people. Maybe it's happened to you. Maybe it's happened to somebody you know, but it is here. It's not just in Miami or in LA or overseas. It's here. Okay, so we spent a little time kind of understanding how a scam works, and they have a playbook. And I've investigated hundreds of online scams, And the playbook when it comes to romance scams is very similar to this. This is kind of the standard script. They have a fake online persona. They're on places like Facebook Marketplace. They're on places like online dating apps. But they have, they're really beautiful people. Kind of like the folks at the beginning of my slide here. Very, very pretty people. They're angelic people. They live perfect lives. They have cats and dogs, and they'll tell you some really cool stories about themselves online, right? And you'll meet them and you'll bump into them in places like Hinge or Match.com or these dating apps. You'll bump into them on places like Instagram, Facebook Marketplace if you sell things online. And often it's not because of what you're doing and you're active searching for love, it's them looking for you. And they look at your profiles, the things you post online, and they identify you as a victim, and then they attack you. It's kind of an attack of a strong word, but that's kind of what happens. They strike up a conversation, they strike up a relationship, and I can tell you from analyzing cell phones from victims, these conversations turn to love very, very fast. We call it love bombing. I love you. I'm in love with you. You're the only person I've ever met and the only person I ever want to be with. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Do you love me back? You should love me. I love you. I'm in love with you. And we call it love bombing because you'll see it over and over. It's like, wow, that's really, really pushy, but it happens quite a bit. They have standard scripts, and they use them over and over again. And we see common threads, and we see different crime victims, and we look at the different conversations they're having. It may not be the same scammer, but we see it's the same techniques, the same things. We're going to get into those scripts a little bit because they kind of morph into different types of scams. Isolation. So there's two things about isolation. Number one, they prey on people that could be isolated. Maybe they're divorced, maybe they've lost a loved one, maybe they've never loved, and they're getting older and they want love. Most of these people, most of these victims either live alone, or if they do live with somebody, they don't have a trusted network in their home. They have nobody they can trust to talk to about relationships. So that's one side of the isolation coin. The other one is what they do to create isolation. The scammers know that if they can prevent you from communicating about your newfound love to anybody else, it's more likely that they're going to achieve their goal. And what's their goal? Money. So they use isolation as a technique to prevent you from talking to other people. They use isolation as a technique to tell your banker that you're remodeling your kitchen and not sending money by a wire transfer overseas. Is making sense? And then they create urgency. There's a problem that needs to be solved, and you are the solution. Maybe they're stuck at a hotel in Dubai. Maybe they've won a lottery that they have to pay the taxes on. Maybe they have an inheritance they have to pay the taxes on. Maybe they are trapped overseas and they need that flight home. Whatever it might be, they create a sense of urgency and they seek your assistance. And then what happens sometimes is that you might be on a very safe platform like Facebook messaging or Instagram directed messaging, and they'll take you to encrypted chat platforms like Stripe, WhatsApp, Telegram, TextNow, and they'll take these conversations there, knowing that it's harder to trace, for law enforcement to trace those conversations electronically, and it makes it more difficult for their communication to be detected. Typically, they can control the conversation, what the content of the conversation is, and they're encrypted, so it's very hard to find. I won't get into the weeds of the technicalities, but they can mask their identities online to trick the internet into believing they are somewhere physically else. They may have an addresses in New York, but they're overseas. Is that making sense? Yeah. And here it is. Here's the goal. At some point in these conversations, they ask for money. Now, I've seen conversations go on for months and months and months, and then when the timing is right, they'll introduce a need for money, an opportunity to get money, a way to share money. But every one of these conversations ends in a demand for money, okay? So let's talk about just a couple of these scams that we see the most. The military romance scam is one of the common scams that affects older women. Everybody loves a soldier, right? Everybody loves a strong, like that guy at the beginning of our slide deck, right? And they portray themselves as young men in maybe the late 30s or early 40s. They're military men, they're special operators, they're assigned to do a secret mission, they're overseas, they're stuck, they need your money. That's one of those common scams. Lonely heart. So this affects men and women alike. They identify their prey by learning about them. So the things you post online, the pictures that you share in your online profiles, the scammers use those to learn about you. And it's not very difficult, really, when you look at these pictures of people to kind of figure out what's going on, what's important in their life. Because if you see a bunch of pictures of one person and that's about it, you can maybe assume they don't have a family or a trusted network. That's a conclusion you can draw. And so the bad guys do the same thing. So they seize on your lonely heart. They know that you're seeking love, and they take advantage of that. The next one is investment fraud. This one affects men the most. These typically take the shape of very young, very attractive women, or people portraying themselves as that, typically in like Russia and Ukraine. That's typically the profile of what they appear online. But these are like really, really pretty people. And they take advantage of men by building a relationship, and very quickly they introduce investment opportunities, mostly centered around cryptocurrency. Anybody have any experience with cryptocurrency? You don't have to raise your hand, but cryptocurrency is a digital currency, right? Making sense? They promise returns on your investment they're not normal in a regular market, right? They promise quick turnaround and lots of money. And then they use high technology to create fake portals where you believe you're investing your money, but at the end of the day, you've just been scammed out of your money. And lastly, this is one of my favorites. Who is this guy? Yeah, he was at Woodfield Mall recently looking for love, but in fact, he wasn't. So the scammers are using artificial intelligence to create images, talking images, videos, and they're taking on celebrity personas. They're using, very much all these other schemes. And these types of cases are typically like, Paul, on this one, he had an inheritance. It was locked up in a trust. You had to pay the taxes, and that's how that kind of scam went down. So you see these scams take many different shapes. All right, so what can we do about them? How can we prevent them? Well, first and foremost, share wisely. Be considerate about the platforms you use, understand how they work, understand what your information looks like to other people in the world, and be cautious about what you post about yourself and what you say about yourself. If you're using dating apps, the same thing applies. Be very cautious and be careful about what you say about yourself. Now, the same thing applies to the profiles you see online. So if you see Facebook Marketplace or Facebook profiles or online dating apps, and they're too good to be true, they're probably too good to be true. They're probably not real, right? So be wary of profiles. Now, there's a way you can take a screenshot of an image, and you can upload it to Google, and Google will go out and search and see if that image hits anywhere else. It's one of the quickest ways to use, take a picture of somebody's face off of a profile, upload it to Google, and you can verify very quickly whether or not that's a scammer recycling a photo. Okay? It's becoming more difficult to do that because of AI. Like all those images that I showed you at the beginning of the screen, those were all created with ChatGPT. So it becomes more difficult, but at the end of the day, the guidance stays the same. Be wary of the profiles, double check. Next, go slow. Now, love takes time sometimes, right? Take your time. There is no rush. And through that process of slowing down, you'll spot the red flags. You'll be able to see what's really before you instead of what they want you to see. Is this making sense? Okay. And staying connected. Now, I'm not saying stay connected with these people online. I'm saying stay connected to somebody in your life. You need one person. If it's your son or your daughter or your cousin, bless you, your cousin, your best friend, your neighbor, a trusted clergyman, anyone, stay connected. Because what we find is that if you have somebody to call to bounce this off of, they're going to go, ugh, that is not real, right? That's not real. That's fake. Let me take a look at that. That's fake. And then when things do go bad, you have a support network there. It's really, it's one of the most important things on this slide here is to have a support network, to stay connected. And we're going to talk about some help at the end here, but it's good to have a close friend or family member. Watch for excuses. These are the things I love the most. So they'll say, can you send me a couple $100 on the gift cards so I can buy a plane ticket home? And you do that. And I've sadly seen many people go to the airport waiting for their future spouse to arrive, and they never show up. I say, oh, you're not going to believe this, but the helicopter crashed. It crashed on the way to pick me up, so I'm still stuck here. Can you send me like $1,000 this time so I get a first-class ticket? And you do it. And you wait, and the person never arrives. Now they want tax. The government here in Dubai, they want I got to pay the taxes on this inheritance. Can you send me $20,000 by wire transfer next week? And these numbers get higher and higher and higher, and deeper and deeper and deeper you go. And lastly, if there's one thing that you take away from everything I say here today, is to protect your money at all costs. You worked very, very hard for your money through your life. You need your money to survive, and don't let anybody take it away from you, right? Okay, just a few more, we're almost done. So, the worst has happened, and oh boy, I just figured it out. I've been scammed. So what should you do? Very simple, stop all communication. Stop all communication. This is the most critical point in this encounter with these scammers, because the longer they can talk to you, the more likely they can continue to weave their tails, and it's more likely that you're going to believe them and to continue to send more money. I can't begin to tell you how many people I've seen fall right at this point, where the light bulb went on, it was just enough to cast doubt, but they're like, I don't know, I love this guy, and it seems real. You don't know what you're talking about, detective. This is real. This is the real deal. Stop communicating. Secondly, as I said before, don't send them another penny. I don't care what they tell you, how many threats or promises they make, do not send another penny, because what's going to happen is you are going to continue to be a victim of their theft. Don't send any more money. And lastly, to the best of your ability, save evidence. Don't flush your phone. Save evidence the best you can, and work with the police. We'll talk. We can work through on that. But at the end of the day, try to save evidence the best you can. Okay, a couple more slides. And then the other thing we encourage you to do is the minute you realize it's a scam, you should report it to your local law enforcement. If you're here in Schaumburg, you can come to the front desk of the police department and report a crime, or you can call 911 and we'll send a patrolman to your home and take a report. Okay, do that. You say, oh, you guys aren't going to solve it. You guys can't figure this out. You can't stop the thieves at Woodfield Mall. You think you're going to figure this out? But what you're going to do is you're going to help somebody else. Because sometimes we can solve them. Sometimes we can claw the money back. We're lucky enough. We had a case a couple years ago. We clawed back $99,000 from Cambodia. It was a wire transfer. We got to it fast enough. So the reality is it does happen, but you need to report it right away. Don't wait a week. Don't wait a month, report it that same day. Even if it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, report it. We'll be happy to come to your home, okay? Secondly, go online and report it to the Federal Trade Commission. They gather data, they don't investigate crimes, but they have a database where a government, law enforcement, state and local and federal government use to gather data. We have access to that, so you can report this and others can benefit because it educates law enforcement. And lastly, report it to the FBI. Oh, you say the FBI is not going to come to my home. they're handling much bigger things. And that's true, they're not going to come to your home. But what happens, that data goes to a clearinghouse in Washington, D.C. They sift through every single report that you make here, and they look for leads if it's connected to a larger network. And the feds will get involved if you're a senior and you've had a loss of several hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they'll work with us to manage your case. The other thing is you're going to help other crime victims by educating law enforcement about where the trends are. It helps law enforcement connect the dots. So do these things. A couple more slides. And so the aftercare is scam recovery. So what, okay, the worst has happened. I've lost all my money. I've reported to the police. Oh, now what do I do? The first thing you should do is contact Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion and freeze your credit. Don't allow any more credit transactions to occur on your consumer credit profile. You say, but I didn't share my driver's license. This is still good. This is still good information. Freeze your credit for 2-3 months. Request alerts from the credit bureaus so you can get a text message of any sort of unauthorized transactions or accounts appear. And then continue to monitor your credit. You can get free credit reports. As an identity theft victim under the law, you're entitled to free reports. And then do a review of all of your passwords. How do you access these platforms, and do a review of those. And lastly, you're not alone. And Meredith is going to come up here in a minute, and she's going to tell you about our services. But we are blessed at the Schaumburg Police Department to have such a robust social services division. It's comforting as a law enforcement officer to, instead of just kicking you out the door, I can say, hang on, I got one better for you. And we call Meredith, and we say, this person needs help. Sometimes it's just somebody to talk to. Sometimes it's a link up with a food bank or emergency housing. But as Schaumburg residents or anybody who's a crime victim here in Schaumburg, we are blessed that we have a social services division to step in and give you the aid that you need. You guys have been best. Thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Well done.
Okay. That's, all right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, stretch break if you need to. Either raise your hand, stand up. I know it's been a little while. Nice little stretch here. Mine's not as exciting as sex, but we'll get there. All righty. All right. It's all good. I will not take much of your time. I just want to go over a few things at the end, real quickly, if possible. Oh, I said oh, sorry. Now everyone's moving. I apologize. Well, you can move and listen probably. That's fine. Or sit and listen, whichever you choose. So as it was just mentioned, you guys are not alone when it comes to any of these scamming or when it comes to being nervous to talk to your doctors, anything like that. It can happen to anyone, no matter your background, education, or age. What do you think is the #1 feeling that someone feels after being scammed?
They're embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Shame. It's huge. It's an epidemic right now, guys. Everyone feels shame and nobody wants to talk about it. So that's what I'm tasked with today, is to tell you all about shame and what we can do and how you should not feel it at certain times. So shame is embarrassment, self-blame, or thinking, why did I just do that? I know better, especially when it comes to money. So after seeing a detective, or even beforehand, say you get scammed, Most people will not go talk about it. They don't even want to tell the detective. They don't even want to tell their own children. And I know this from clients who have come to me and said, do not tell my children that this just happened, because they feel a lot of shame. It's a universal feeling. We feel it at any age. It impacts our ability to fully engage with the world. And it arises when we feel exposed, as if somebody just took advantage of us through love, through money, or whatever means. So we want to acknowledge and normalize it first. So everybody has and feels shame. It's a feeling of foolishness, worrying what other people will think. I think that's the biggest one, especially even our spouses, our loved ones. It can cause them to think something different about us. We avoid talking about it even with family, and then it's all a internal negative self-talk that it turns into, which then can snowball into more effects. So a couple things to remember about shame. Again, we're all human and we make mistakes. We are not perfect. The reactions are typical, and as mentioned before, scammers rely on it. Like, they rely on us to feel shame so that they can continue scamming, and that's because shame will silence us. So they're skilled manipulators. This is not somebody, even if they tell you they love you and express it in the most desirable way, they're manipulators, and they create this urgency to get the money, this urgency to fall in love fast, and the fear that if you tell somebody else, then you look stupid, right? You're telling yourself you feel this way or you feel that way, when they are the people that anybody else is the victim. They can manipulate. They do this, as he said, in a room full of people. This is literally can happen, where they target specific individuals. So you are being scammed is not a reflection of your intelligence. So you're not stupid. They are masters at what they do. They're designed to trick your brain. So overcoming shame, a couple different things. Practice self-compassion. One of them is give yourself grace. So yes, do we make mistakes? Absolutely. Every single day of our lives, and we'll probably make more. It's being able to say, I made a mistake, and not I am the mistake. You are not. By falling for a scam, you're not a mistake. Accept your emotions and feel your feels. Nobody likes to feel all their feels all the time, especially when it's not a good feeling. But what I can tell a lot of my clients, and I can tell you guys, is once we feel it, express it, talk to somebody about it, it actually diminishes on its own. The more it stays silent inside of us, it festers more and more and more and more. Getting it outward is the best. And then forgiving yourself. Give yourself permission and understand to learn from your past, or learn from that mistake, and tell somebody else about your mistakes. That's the one thing I can say to everybody in this room is, whether or not you've experienced a scam or whatever, tell somebody else about this that you heard today. Because that person might feel shame, and that person, tell them to tell somebody else, so that we're all talking about shame and how to kick it in the butt. Right there, right? You don't want it anymore, and the more we can do that, the more that we are then able to take down those people who are scamming. One of the biggest, I love Brene Brown, but one of her quotes that is relevant here with shame is, we must remember the 4 elements of shame resilience, which is, you name it. What is the shame that you're naming? You talk about it to anybody. You can, if you don't want to tell your kids, you can call me. I promise. I will listen. We will talk about it anytime. And own your story. This is your story. This is what happened. You are not a fool for this. And tell your story to the next person so that they can learn from that as well. There's also emotional impacts that come with scamming. Any types of scams, but romantic scams as well. A few of them that I can touch on specifically would be the shame, a loss of trust, right? So these romantic scams, it doesn't just affect you in the moment or the financial piece of it. You lose trust with most people in your life, right? These new people that you're meeting, new individuals that you do meet that might be a good friend, you're isolating yourself. Social isolation's the next one. That's exactly what it's designed to do with scamming, is to isolate yourself. And then strained family relationships, right? So when anything comes to finances, especially if your spouse is still around or your kids, you don't want to tell them because you're afraid they're going to be upset, and it could cause strained family relationships. So some of these are emotional impacts that can happen. So what we can do about it now, we can break the cycle of shame. Like, that's the biggest thing I want to say is share your story. If you don't have a story, share this talk with somebody else so that we can pass it on to more and more people. And then show empathy. If somebody comes and tells you they're scammed, listen to them. Listen with concern, compassion, remain non-judgmental towards them. And then again, to them or to yourselves, shift that blame. So you are not to blame, you are a victim in this, and the blaming is on this person who's doing the scamming. And then report the scam, obviously, and find support, whether that is your doctors, right? Your doctors are huge. If you don't want to trust your family and you're too scared to go to the police right now, talk to your doctors about it at first. They can then reassure you and redirect you to the police department, to a trusted person. Tell your therapist if you have one. Any of these people in groups at the barn, anybody that you know in the village, you can stop and talk to somebody that you might feel safe with. They can direct you to the right place. And locally, we, as has been mentioned before as well, have an awesome network in Schaumburg of places that you can go to that are not online. They are in person for you to meet individuals as well, or for you to get any types of services that you may need. So the barn, as many of you all are aware, is a great place for fellowship. You have the Park District, who also offers bingo, social groups, some luncheons, trips. The township, our lovely library right here, this is a great event for you guys to come out to during the middle of the day and learn. And the Village of Schaumburg, and then the Kenneth Young Center as well. They do have some great programs as well at the Kenneth Young Center. So those are in our area. If you don't live within the township or Schaumburg, I would say you can always reach out to the police social worker, Roselle, Elk Grove, surrounding areas. They do great work as well, and they can direct you in that same path. If they don't, you can call the social workers at the Schaumburg Police Department, and we can redirect you to who you need to go to for any further assistance as well. We don't have any issues with that. There's some virtual resources around scamming specifically as well for support groups. But I'd put it in there, but I would still be a little bit hesitant on joining a support group online. I would do it in person first. So lastly, I want to end with just one technique that is very easy, and you might have already done this prior in your life, but for you feeling shame at all, there's one small exercise that you can do that I recommend to anybody, and it's for self-compassion and self-love, and it's called the butterfly hug, and it's a meditation that you can do. And you wrap your hands around yourself as if you can do it right now, wrap yourself like you're giving yourself a hug. Breathe in as deep as you can through your nose, and then breathe out through your mouth. And sometimes you can do this too, like a butterfly, and it makes you smile, and it gives you a hug if you need one and you're by yourself. So it lowers our stress as well to do something very simple that takes 30 seconds to do. So there's my little tip as well. I appreciate and thank you guys all for coming.